ஓகே, இப்போ நம்ம ஒரு கலெக்டிவ் கிளாஸாக பார்க்கலாம். அபர்ச்சர், ஷட்டர் ஸ்பீட் அண்ட் ஐஎஸ்ஓ இது மூணு பற்றியும் நம்ம வந்துட்டு ஒரு சின்ன இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் பார்த்துட்டோம். ஸோ ஒரு கலெக்டிவ் கிளாஸாக ஒரு 5 மினிட்ஸ்க்குள்ளார வந்துட்டு ஒரு சீட் ஷீட் மாதிரி ஒன்று ரெடி பண்ணியிருக்கோம். அந்த சீட் ஷீட் பேஸ் பண்ணி நம்ம பிகினர்ஸ்க்கு எப்படி வேணால் இது ஒர்க் ஆகுதுன்னு சொல்லலாம். த ஃபஸ்ட் ஒன் இஸ் கால்ட் டிஎஸ்எல்ஆர். வாட் இஸ் டிஎஸ்எல்ஆர்? ஸோ டிஎஸ்எல்ஆரோட ஃபுல் ஃபார்ம் உங்களுக்காக நான் வந்துட்டு ஜஸ்ட் ஜூம் அண்ட் ஷோ லிட்டில் பிட் மெஸ்ஸி ஹியர். Digital Standard Lens Reflex. So DSLR oda full form Digital Standard Lens Reflex, that is a mirror which is placed in between image sensor and the lens. Okay, now what is a sensor? The part of your camera that detects and records your image. So ஒரு image record பண்ணதுக்கு ரொம்ப முக்கியமானது என்னது? Sensor. The third one is going to be lenses, which is going to be one part of your camera body which helps as a mechanism to find the objects, image of an object, to capture the image of an object. Then we are going to work on aperture. I've already said aperture is going to be the amount of light which is hitting inside, and when the aperture is open wide, the amount of light is more. When aperture is less, the amount of light is less, and it is mentioned based on f stops. Then you go with shutter speed. What is the shutter speed? The length of the time the film or the digital sensor inside the camera is exposed to light. How much time you're opening and closing the sensor, how much time you're opening and closing the shutter, that much the light enter into your camera, that is your shutter speed. Then we go with ISO, which is nothing going to be sensitivity to the light. Higher the ISO numbers and lower the ISO numbers, and we have discussed last about ISO. Now depth of field, only two types of depth of field which we are talking about. One is going to be shallow depth of field, the second one is going to be narrow or large depth of field. Narrow or large depth of field. So combine all together, what is DSLR, what is sensor, what is a lens, what is an aperture, what is a shutter speed, what is an ISO, what is a depth of field. All these things we have seen in simple lessons. Understanding about the lenses we are going to see in the next classes, and understanding about the exposure triangle we are going to see in coming classes. Okay, now what is this cheat sheet is all about? Now I got a simple cheat sheet for you people to understand, combining all these first three lessons into one single topic. Now what is an aperture? Aperture is always mentioned based on f stops. Shallow the depth of field, which means your aperture is wide open. Larger the depth of field or deeper the depth of field, which means your aperture is closed. Now these are the aperture blades here, which you can see wide open and closed. What is wide open? When your aperture value is less, which means in 1.42 and 2.8 it is going to be wide open. When your aperture value is more, which means 8, 11, 16, 22 or 30, 32, then your open is less and less amount of light are entering inside. Now the depth of field is decided based on the amount what you are giving on aperture. F 1.4 is going to give a shallow depth of field, and slowly the depth of field is getting changed based on the aperture values. Yes, next one is going to be the shutter speed. Now what exactly the shutter speed refers to? Sensitivity to light, where when the shutter open and close, longer the exposure time and shorter the exposure time. That is the only two concepts over here. Longer the exposure time, which we call it as a bulb, where it goes beyond 1 second, we call it as bulb, where 10 seconds, 20 seconds and 30 seconds of exposure for the nighttime photography we used to do. And when it comes to a normal exposure time, which goes with 1 by 100, 1 by 125, 1 by 200, when it goes beyond 1 by 500, it's going to be the shorter exposure time, where we are going to freeze the action. The length of the time when the digital sensor inside the camera is exposed to light, that is a proper definition of shutter speed. Okay, the length of time when the digital sensor inside the camera is exposed to light. When the shutter is open and close, amount of light which is entering inside. Now the longer the exposure we use for the more, for night photography, motion trials and much more places where we need a blurry image, we use a longer the exposure time. We are using a shorter exposure time when we need to freeze the action. The third one is going to be ISO. The sensitivity of the image sensor or the film to hit inside the camera on the sensor. For the lower the ISO numbers when we use on the daytime, and the higher the ISO numbers we use on the night time. Now they don't differentiate with low in day and high in night time, but that is a basic understanding about ISO. Now lower the ISO values is going to be 100, 200 and 400. Beyond 400 we go with higher ISO numbers like 800, 1600 till whatever the camera's capacity has to be there. As the image shows here, lower the ISO numbers with low sensitivity light, where higher the number is high sensitivity light, and where highs is more, noise is more, where the low sensitivity, where noise is very less and quality of an image is very good. Now lesser the ISO number will always give a good image quality, higher the ISO numbers will always give a little bit bad or a lower quality of your image. Now the same thing, if you look into it in a perfect structure, now I can show you small aperture value, large aperture value, fast shutter speed, slow shutter speed, low sensitivity, high sensitivity. Now you got many cheat sheets in internet, you can download and you can look into it. What I am showing here is nothing made by me, I have just got it from internet only. So all these things are combined together. We have seen first three classes about aperture, shutter speed and ISO.